Watching why have there been so many plane crashes recently?
Have we seen so many lethal aviation events over the past few months? Is there a broader problem around aviation safety here, or what's going on?
Okay, this is a bit more of a conspiracy than what it is. I think something is going on. I think this channels back to rich people. This channels back to rich people. Y'all be like, this nigga's tripping. Think about it. This whole fucking bullshit channels back to rich people. You're telling me it's big 2025. Do you know how much training that pilots go through to get on the plane? And do you know how much checks a plane goes through to even be on the sky? And you tell me that shit would, crash? Like, obviously, no one is great, but it's like, bro, it's like, think about it. It's big 2020. Do you just think a plane will crash without a specific reason? And all of them are just crashing. It's either the pilot or like some random shit. Don't make sense. Like, come on, man. I'm back. My mom got home and asked for my report card. I know your ass failed, man. Just go get your ass whooping, bro. And just come back, man. Shit.
Well, as
Well,
all
nah, real shit. What's your report card looking like? Do you get all A's, B's, or C's? What's it looking like? I didn't fail. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
always, it pays to look at the details, and while there definitely are lessons that we need to learn from these accidents, finding any real pattern is another story. Stay tuned.
Well, I'm staying tuned. Is this an aviation safety crisis?
The end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025 have been extremely difficult for the aviation industry. The string of terrible news started with Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243, which crashed as its crew were attempting an emergency landing at Aktau in Kazakhstan. This happened on the 25th of December, and since then, Kazakhstan's investigation authority has released a preliminary report, for now only available in Russian.
I can send you.
confirming
Yeah,
some of the
send it. I
details
want to
that
see
we
it.
already had, as well as giving us some new ones. Like we knew from early on, the aircraft's pilots had faced quite difficult weather conditions, plus a lack of GPS for navigation due to jamming and spoofing, as they were flying towards their original destination of Grozny, Russia. They initially made 2 unsuccessful attempts to land and were then contemplating a third, but on top of their GPS issues, it also seems like even some of the ground-based navaids didn't work properly. At the time,
Yo, I
there were
think if I was a
reports of
pilot,
Russian
man,
forces
I don't
being
think I
on
would
the
like
lookout for
give a fuck about the
Ukrainian
passengers.
drones
I
in
give a
that
fuck about
same
myself.
region, and as the crew flying the Azerbaijan Airlines jet were planning their next move, their cockpit voice recorder registered what the preliminary report described as a sonic boom. Soon after that, first one, then all 3 hydraulic systems dropped to zero or near zero pressure, and the aircraft's primary control surfaces became fixed at a neutral position, where they remained for the remainder of the flight. And if that wasn't enough, the aircraft's cabin also depressurized. In the confusion, the crew couldn't really be sure about what had actually happened to
Like,
their
yo, this is
aircraft.
so scary, man. This is like, yo, do you know how do you know if you get on a plane, bro, your life isn't on your hands anymore. Your life is in the hands of the pilot and God Himself. Like, those are your 2 saviors. After God, it's the pilot, man. Because think about it. That nigga could be having a bad day, get on that plane, and crash that bitch. He could be suicidal and crash that bitch, bro. That's why it's like, yo, you up there, you can't do nothing to save yourself. Your hands is literally on the hands of the pilot. Like, you can't do nothing. Like, just accept your fate. Whatever comes next to it, just accept your fate. You know what I mean? That's literally it. Like, it's so scary to me.
The cabin crew informed the pilots that 2 seats had just exploded, which the pilot then reported to ATC along with a possible bird strike. They then asked for a diversion elsewhere in Russia, including to Mineralny Vody and Makhachkala, but according to the interim report, the weather at both of those alternates was far from favorable. The pilots then initially decided to return to their origin airport in Baku before inquiring about weather conditions in Aktau, Kazakhstan instead. And that's where the crew ultimately decided to divert to. By that point, they had already informed air traffic control that they had lost all of their primary controls and could only fly the aircraft using differential thrust on their engines. So that's what they did as they crossed the Caspian Sea towards Aktau. The crew were able to lower their gear and even extend some flaps as they got closer to Aktau, but they were obviously still struggling for control. And at time 06:27 and 58 seconds UTC, about 1 hour and 15 minutes after what now looks like a missile strike over Russia, the Embraer E190 finally impacted the ground about 5 kilometers away from the nearest runway at Aktau Airport. Among the 62 passengers and 5 crew aboard, 35 passengers and 3 crew, including the 2 pilots, lost their lives.
Wow.
Now, I will eventually examine
over 100 people
more closely when we have a final report on it, but for now, I can only tell you that I think that it looks incredible that these pilots were able to keep this crippled aircraft in the air and under control for as long as they did. And on top of that, also managed to get it close to an airport before losing controls. It likely saved a lot of life. Again, remember, they just had differential thrust of their engines to work with.
I'm playing Modern right now.
We now
My team's
know
so
that
good.
in addition to the rear of the fuselage, which was likely hit by missile fragments, at least one of their engines and associated wings was also showing similar damages. Now, after that tragedy, only 3 days later, in fact, a PAL Airlines de Havilland Dash 8, operating as Air Canada Flight 2259, suffered a gear collapse as it landed on runway 24 in Halifax, Canada.
Like, I'm trying to tell y'all this. Y'all don't see the vision, but I see the vision. This is rich people, like the elites, like they controlling this shit, bro. So you telling me in the Big 265, you know how many checks they go through to get a plane on the sky? Yo, me getting my fucking license, you know how many tests I had to do, how much I had to study? You telling me a plane like that's carrying over 5 people? This shit ain't no helicopter. This is a plane. It's carrying over 5 people. Like, more than 5 lives on it. Telling me before it takes off, there could be like an engine, whatever fault is. Like, I'm telling y'all, like, yo, you guys don't see this shit, but I see it. I see it. I think this is like a trick to like make people, be scared or like, do some dumbass shit. It's like, think of like when they try to make Alien a thing, like oh, aliens are real. Bitch, the economy, everything is expensive. You're talking about fucking alien is real. You know what I mean? I think this gotta, you know what I mean? Has to be something elites are doing, man.
The left engine and wing both ended up contacting the runway with fire and sparks flying off as the aircraft completed its nighttime landing, and it would later turn out that the aircraft had actually suffered a blown tire on departure, which wasn't noticed by the crew nor by anyone.
So you're telling me before the plane took off, the pilot didn't know a tire was missing? Hello? You're telling me before this plane took off, you're telling me the pilot didn't know the tire was missing? What's that training for then?
Anyone else?
Like, I don't even know. This got to be some
The imbalance of that blown tire then caused a vibration, which eventually unlocked the gear leg upon landing. Fortunately, all 73 passengers and 4 crew members on this flight were able to evacuate the crippled plane with no reported injuries. But this event still got quite a lot of exposure in the press, and we all hoped that 2024 would end with no further accidents than that. But sadly, that just wasn't to be. Already on the following day came a real tragedy.
The next day,
on the 29th of December, Jeju Air Flight 2216 landed with its gear retracted on runway 19 in Muan Airport in South Korea, before then overshooting the runway at high speed and hitting a concrete embankment. Of the 175 passengers and 6 crew, only 2 crew members in the rear of the aircraft managed to survive the devastating crash and subsequent violent explosion. Again, this is a story that we will know more about later when the final report is ready, but there are already some misunderstandings about some key details here, which is why I have decided to release a rare preliminary video over on Mentor Pilot about it. And in that video, I will cover the findings of the preliminary report and give you a deep dive into the systems and procedures that would have been involved in an event like this. But obviously, still without speculating on the exact cause.
I think this is all
If
like,
this video is released when you watch this, well then you can watch it.
Rest in peace for the innocent people that has to be, you know, put in this situation. Well, cause like, come on, man. That's what I'm just trying to say. Like, I feel like, see all these rich motherfuckers that be out there, they don't, like, I'm talking about the elite, I'm talking about the rich people, I'm talking about the basic people, I'm talking about like the motherfuckers that's got connection that they could get you, locked up for no reason. I'm talking about them type people know what the fuck they doing. And I think like it's something that is like, think about it this way. You know, you guys be watching all the movies that be like, you know, they have different it's like that, right? I think there is, you know, in every country there's a representative from each country. They all come together and they're rich as fuck. I'm talking about generational wealth type stuff. And they all talk about shit, this is the next stuff that would happen. And they're like, okay, do you know what? I think plane crash should be next. My country go first, then your country go next, and your country go next. Then they pay someone to do it, and they orchestrate that stuff. Because ain't no way you would tell me little ass stuff's getting people killed. Like, something that should be checked already. Like, if this was, okay, if a plane was on the sky, right? And maybe there was maybe a hurricane or some shit that hit the wing off, that's understandable. Good, fine. That's a great, you know, right? If you're telling me a plane is on the sky and randomly the wings just happen to, you know, cut off or some random shit was about to happen, it's like, come on, man, we need more explanation to that. Like, come on, bruh. Not even one time, not even twice. Yo, this year has been like there's been like 6 plane crashes. I'm not even trying to gas that shit. And what's getting me scared is like my parents is going back to Africa in June. And it's like I'm trying to tell my mom, don't go. Like, just wait till like next year or some shit. She doesn't want to listen. I'm trying to say, Ma, don't go. Like, chill. Like, there's been too many plane crashes. You shouldn't go. And you're going back to Africa. It's like 2 days flight. Just chill. It's like, come out. Like, come. What are you rushing for?
Here. After the tragedy in South Korea came another high-profile event, which thankfully didn't claim any lives, but it did destroy the aircraft that was involved. This happened to Air Busan Flight 391 in South Korea again, which had been planned to operate over to Hong Kong on the 28th of January this year. This flight was being pushed back for departure when a fire suddenly started near the rear of the passenger cabin, initially for unknown reasons. The pushback was immediately stopped, and the continuing smoke and fire eventually made the crew decide to evacuate the aircraft using the emergency slides. Everyone made it out safely, but there were 4 injuries caused by the evacuation itself, which is always a possibility when we make the decision to evacuate. Now, unfortunately for the poor Airbus, airport firefighters couldn't get the fire under control until a full hour and 15 minutes after it started, by which point the aircraft was already completely destroyed. That investigation is still ongoing, but we got an interesting clue about its likely cause a few days later, when Air Busan announced that its passengers would no longer be allowed to place power banks in any baggage stored in the overhead bins. Now, I have already made a video about lithium batteries and the many problems that they can cause on board. You are generally not even allowed to store such batteries in the cargo hold unless they are really, really small. And this is likely a good example of why that is. But it should be said that some airlines also do what Air Busan just announced, because accessing such batteries quickly when they're packed among bags and cases in the overhead bins can be tricky. So we don't really know for sure that this is what actually caused this. But that sadly wasn't the end of the horrors of these last weeks, and I will cover that in just a moment, but first I want to share something quite important with you. I hope that you have noticed that my team and I have been trying to increase the output and respond faster to when things happen in the aviation world lately. I love doing that, but it's only really possible. Now, I only allow sponsors who I am created order outside for a plan of crazy November Barcelona. Now, in case 5th air disaster to have hit the United States in over a decade. On the 29th of January, the crew of a PSI Airlines CRJ-700 were operating American Airlines Flight 5342 from Wichita, Kansas, over to Washington National Airport in the United States. CVR transcripts show that the pilots had initially planned to land on runway 01 using an ILS approach, but that plan was then changed when air traffic control cleared them to make a visual approach into runway 01 instead. So, a different, potentially tighter approach, but to the same runway. Now, when the CRJ crew then contacted the tower controller, they were asked if they could accept a circuit to land over to runway 33 instead. This was not the runway they had prepared for and would require a bit of a visual sidestep, first to the right and then over to the left, and the crew briefly discussed the controller's request, which would require them to switch to this circling visual approach while they were actually quite close to the airport. And they eventually said that they could accept it. At the same time as this was going on, a US Army helicopter, a Sikorsky UH-60 Black Hawk with call sign PAT-25, was conducting a training flight flying south along the Potomac River. At this point along its route, it should have been no higher than...
Hold on, I want you guys to peep this, right? I call this bullshit. I call this bullshit, bro. I mean, RIP to people that lost their lives to all this, shenanigans that's just happened. But it's like, dude, this is an airport. Like, this is highly trained officials operating. Like, these are people's lives on fucking, you know what I mean? I ain't gonna lie, bro. It's like, it's so scary to get on that plane. Like, the last time I was on the plane I was on a flight from, it was from Singapore to Sydney. That was the last flight I was on, right? And I'm not even trolling. There was like a bump on the air. Dude, the whole plane was shaking for a good 2 minutes. 2.5 minutes whatsoever. They was like, buckle up your seatbelt and shit like that. Yo, this nigga scared the fucking bricks out me. The whole plane was fucking vibe. It was like shaking, but it was literally like, it was like, and I tapped my sister and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yo, it was so scary. And the thing, it was like, dun, dun, put your seatbelt on, and I'm like, oh, hell no. Yo, my life was like, I was like, yo, what if this plane crashes? That's it. That's it. That's it, bro.
200 feet above the ground in order to maintain separation from landing traffic at Washington National. Traffic at the airport was quite busy at this time, which was part of the reason why the controller had asked the CRJ crew to make that switch to a different runway.
Okay,
that same
so there's 3 runways, right? First one got changed to the second one, a much tighter one. Then they changed from the second one to the third one. It's on the other angle, which okay.
Controller now also asked the crew of the Army helicopter if they had the CRJ in sight, initially informing them that the jet was performing a circling approach to runway 33. The controller then later repeated that message to the Army helicopter crew, who appeared to have said that they had the CRJ in sight, at which point the controller instructed them to pass behind the airliner. Now, the helicopter was communicating on a UHF frequency and the aircraft on a VHF frequency, so they wouldn't have heard each other's transmissions, only the controllers. The CRJ was equipped with TCAS, which could see the helicopter, but at this low altitude, traffic resolutions are generally inhibited to avoid giving dangerous maneuver instructions close to the ground. For this reason, the CRJ pilots only got a TA, a traffic advisory, simply saying traffic, traffic, and unfortunately they didn't have a chance to see the helicopter until it was too late. According to the NTSB, the pilots only had time to slightly increase their pitch before impacting the helicopter at an altitude of 325 feet plus minus 25 feet or so. There were 60 passengers and 4 crew on board the CRJ aircraft, plus 3 people in...
I call cap. This is bullshit. Making my head hurt. It's easy, bro. I'm just saying, this is all cap. This is all orchestrated. This is one big scheme from the elites. Like, they know what they doing, bro. They know what they doing. There is no way. Yo. Okay, let's put this in a plain picture. Okay, maybe the jet didn't see the helicopter, But you telling me the helicopter didn't see the jet? Helicopter couldn't go up? The helicopter couldn't go sideways? It's a fucking helicopter, man. What the flip it? Like, it could go up, it could go sideways, it could go down. Telling me the helicopter just like, he's just like, okay. It just crashed like that? I think it's bullshit. I call cap. This is all orchestrated. Like, this is all, like, I'm trying to tell y'all, this is conspiracy. All from the, man. They know what the fuck they doing. This is all like, this is all bullshit. Like, Kobe. Okay. Bye.
In the helicopter, all of whom were lost in the mid-air collision and the subsequent crash into the Potomac River. This was the first crash of an American-registered passenger airliner on American soil since the Colgan Air crash back in 2009. As we're recording this, there is still a lot of discussion about the...
Alright, so peep this. The last air crash that was recorded in the United States was 2009. Do you know how many safety procedures that they take for a plane to take off? Or for, you know, when they actually... do you know how much training pilots get? You know what I mean? And you telling me a little ass shit like that? Yeah, I call it cat. I call cat.
altitude that the helicopter was flying at, and the way that the helicopter's altitude appeared in the displays used by air traffic control. And there are several other factors that might have played a part in this, like the workload of the air traffic controllers, the possible use of night vision goggles by the helicopter crew, as well as many, many other things. Now, I am sure that the final report into this disaster will have far-reaching effects for aviation in the United States and beyond as well, and I will obviously cover it over on Mentor Pilot when the final report is finally released, likely about a year or even more.
They'll probably forge it, man. They'll probably forge it. They'll make some fake-ass report.
But even this wasn't the end of the horrors. Only 2 days later,
I think they gamble with innocent people's lives. I think they just gamble with innocent people's lives.
This time, the crash of a Learjet 55 in Philadelphia, United States. This time, it happened to a Medivac aircraft, which was returning its 4 passengers, a doctor, a paramedic, a pediatric patient, and her mother, to Mexico. So, including the 2 pilots, there were 6 people on board the flight, which had left Philadelphia to go to Tijuana International with a quick stop for fuel in Springfield, Missouri. The flight, with call sign Mediservice 056, took off using runway 24, initially climbing quickly before entering an overcast cloud layer at around 600 feet above the ground. But then, for unknown reasons, the rapid climb very quickly changed over to a very rapid descent instead, with over 11,000 feet per minute. The aircraft reached a ground speed of 245 knots before finally impacting the ground, and in addition to the 6 occupants, another person on the ground was also killed and at least 19 others injured in the crash.
God damn,
the
RIP,
impact was
man.
Extremely violent and created a huge crater as the aircraft completely disintegrated. So finding out the ultimate cause is going to be stiff work for the investigators, even though the latest news says that the cockpit voice recorder have been recovered. Now, all of the events that I've just described happened in little over a month. So what does this all mean? Is there anything that we can infer from them? Well, a group of accidents like this, as tragic as they are also an example of why we should never speculate on the causes before we have all of the facts. Looking for familiar patterns in events around us is part of human nature. It's how we justify and make sense of our surroundings. And at a first glance, a list of accidents like this on its own can make people who are nervous flyers extra nervous, because obviously it looks like something is going on. But are there really any patterns here? One story involves a skilled crew that managed to keep their jet under control for well over an hour after at least one anti-aircraft missile had been fired at them, leaving them without any primary flight controls. Now, flying over active war zones is dangerous for sure, so that in itself isn't really something new. The second story involved a burst tire that went unnoticed, which caused further aircraft damage, expenses and drama, but no fatalities or even injuries. And the following one, the Jeju air crash, certainly raises a lot of questions about certain aircraft systems and maybe even about airport design, but it doesn't really share any traits with the other accidents. The same also goes for the other South Korean event involving the Air Busan aircraft fire, even though it is likely an...
And do you guys peep this, what's going on? In every single country, there's at least 2 accidents. In Russia, there was 2 plane crashes. In Korea, there was 2 plane crashes. In America, Two plane crashes. Can you tell me this is just normal? All right, so peep this, right? Yo, imagine there is like maybe every time you turn on the news, there is maybe a boat. Like, okay, in a span of 6 months, there's been over 10 train wrecks or some shit like that. Would you think would you be like, okay, that's just normal? You know what I mean? The plane, the train was just casually, training and maybe just derailed or some shit like that. Would you think that's normal? Obviously, it's not normal. Someone derailed the train. Like, yes, this is the exact same stuff I'm talking. You think plane would just majestically, you know what I mean? Yo, do you know how many? Do you know what? Like it's. Like, I don't even know what to say, bro. My song is taking ages to upload to Spotify. You upload songs on Spotify already? That's tough.
Important reminder that we need to take lithium batteries seriously. Now, the Washington National Mid-Air Collision, like the Jeju air crash, is very important in itself, and things like airport congestion or ATC staffing levels are already being discussed as a result. But again, there is little or nothing to connect this event with the others, and the same goes for the Medevac Learjet crash in Philadelphia. Now, I want to be absolutely clear here. I am not belittling or dismissing any of these events in any way, but even when it comes to seemingly obvious problems that we've discussed before, like congestion and ATC staffing levels in many US airports, we must clearly separate facts and speculation here and not jump to conclusions.
I'm jumping to conclusion. The fuck is wrong with you?
Common sense in cases like this very rarely works. To further understand why that is and why it's so important, we should consider the two Boeing 737 MAX crashes that happened back in 2018 and 2019. In that case, after the first crash, many pilots and others in the industry assumed that this tragedy had been primarily caused by pilot error. I know that because I was actually one of them who assumed that very thing. Now, without saying it explicitly, Boeing then implied that the problem with MCAS wasn't really a problem and that existing guidance on how to deal with the runway stabilizer was all that we pilots needed in order to deal with it.
This is so
like
scary.
I explained in my two MAX videos,
your hands is on someone else. Your life is on someone else's
really
hand.
Behave like a typical stabilizer runaway. So it just wasn't as easy to deal with this new system as we had been led to believe. But everyone still thought about pilot error after the first crash. That attitude then obviously rapidly changed after the second crash, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, and the entire aviation industry finally learned its hard lessons. But by then, another 157 lives had already been lost.
Damn.
R.I.P. I know that I might seem a little bit repetitive when I say this, but every incident and accident that happens really does make the next flight you are going to be on a little bit safer. But that's only as long as we learn the right lessons from them and don't jump to conclusions.
You can just leave anytime, bro.
Where there really aren't any.
Leave anytime, man.
Now, I made another video recently where I highlighted a potentially serious issue with the engines used on the Boeing 737 MAX as well as on several other modern airliners. And that is an issue that could cause dangerous smoke events in the case of a bird strike. But where the authorities, in my view, doesn't seem to be acting as fast as they should, or even at all. Now, making a video like that might seem to be contradicting my earlier point about not giving advice until all of the facts are known or on the table, but that is actually exactly my point here. We need to learn from the incidents and accidents before there is a loss of life, and that's one of the reasons why I am making these videos. But for that to happen, we need to make sure that we're picking.
That didn't sound like that was just straight, just fucking me. So fucking. Fuck, I look. Imagine, like, I think I look like Michael B. Jordan. Hear me out though. I low-key look like Michael B. Jordan, bro. Like my goatee, I low-key look like Michael B. Jordan. I just, you know what I mean? I just need to guys. I just need to hit the gym, and I look like Michael B. Jordan a little bit, bro. Like shit though. Oh wait, wait, what? You suck at Sage, dude. I've played Sage, and I don't think that game is for me. It's just so fucking difficult. How do you even play that fucking
Up
game?
the correct lessons
Like
without
playing
getting
out still.
sidetracked by theories that end up getting accepted as facts in the news cycle, even after investigators prove them wrong. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the regulators shouldn't act quickly after a disaster if they find something important. In the case of the mid-air collision in Reagan Washington National, the FAA has now closed helicopter routes and imposed other safety restrictions that will help keep airliners and helicopters separated. But those were pretty obvious actions to take. We don't know if those measures will end up being permanent or not. That will depend on the investigation's conclusions. But this accident has also brought up many other instances where the FAA has been too slow to implement NTSB's recommendations. Something we all now hope will change. Finally, as for us, you, me, and the traveling public, we also need to be wary about other knee-jerk reactions.
Oh, and by the way, got a clip of me slitting on you. You a brick. Shut your bitch ass up. Ace, can I grape you? Holy shit. Ear rape. Look, bro. I think I need to clip farm. I haven't clipped farm in a very long time. Like I need to clip farm about something. I don't even know. There's something, man. I'll think of something before I end. Turn off the gain. I'll turn off the gain. Yo. Still loud? Yo. 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 Oh, it's so much better. What the fuck? Wait, I will send you a fire video. All right, bet. Hold on.
And responses when things like this happen. After one or more of these type of serious accidents, we tend to see a lot of publicity around smaller, still important but a lot less dangerous events that would barely have registered in the news if they had happened a week or two before. Now, whilst these definitely will scare the traveling public, neither those nor the accidents that I've just explained are likely representing any indication of a change in how overall safe it is to fly. Aviation continues to be.
I think this is cap, and innocent people got their life tangled up in this fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? I think this is all controlled by the elites, man.